All right, what's up, y'all, and welcome to Teaching Tuesday. Today we're going to continue our Inversions series, and we are going to talk about inversions of a G7 chord. So, yeah, we've done major 7, minor 7, and minor 7 flat 5. Now we're going to talk about just straight up dominant 7. A little bit of a caveat here, a little bit of a disclaimer. A lot of the voicings that we're going to talk about, because we're just going to talk about inversions of just like 1, 3, 5, 7 of a G7 chord, and they're not going to be super functional in a jazz context because it's fairly simplistic for jazz. It's a little like not colorful enough, if you will. So, but we're going to talk about some modifications you can add to them to make them jazzier. And either way, it's just good to like explore these inversions just to see like what kind of sounds we can get and if we like them, if we don't like them. So, okay, we're going to start out with our very root position, meat and potatoes, G7 over here. Now, we're going to do the same string combinations as last week, or the last few weeks. So we're going to not have the 5th string in these first chords. So it's just going to be 6, 4, 3, 2 in terms of strings. And so first we get this chord. It's G, F, B, D. And we talked about this chord without the 2nd string, without the D, in the 6 chords you should need to know video. 6 chords you need to know. So, you know, if you saw that video, then you already know most of this chord. But okay, that's a pretty good chord. It's not my favorite chord, but it's fine. I would say a modification you can use to a modification you can make to this chord to make it jazzier is just change that 5th to a 13. So we're just changing the D and making it an E. Now, you know, there's so many different types of dominant chords that you know, it's impossible to go over all the different variations, but in this video, we're talking about kind of more standard dominant chords without alterations. So maybe some extensions, but without any like flat 9s or, you know, flat 13s or anything like that. So we can use a G13, and that's a great sounding chord. Or, you know, for this one, the regular G7 is fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Okay, first inversion of that chord gives us this. So we get B, G, D, and F. Now this chord, it's not like a great chord. I mean, okay, it's a nice sounding chord. It's not a particularly jazzy chord. And to the extent that it is a jazzy chord, it definitely sounds like a figured bass chord. That is like a G7 over B. Like it definitely sounds like that B is really the root of the chord, right? So you got to be careful with that chord. I don't know if I would really use it in a jazz context very often. You could, and you can do this with a lot of the chords. You can change the G to an A. And then you'll notice that you get a B half diminished. And you can kind of do this with all the chords. So if you do a B half diminished and then you can like do all the inversions of that like we did in the last video, the minor 7 flat 5 inversions, those actually all kind of work. So we did it in G, we did G half diminished last week. So that would be E7. And so for a G7, you'd want to do B half diminished. I know it's like a little bit of a brain, you know what, but yeah, it's a little complicated. But if you can follow that, for all these G7s, you can do the B half diminished, and that'll work nice. It'll be a G9 without a G, so without like a rootless G9. So, and that'll certainly work well for this one. As for the next one, but I'll get into that in a second. So the next chord looks like this. So we get D, B, F, and G. So this chord is definitely a little more country sounding, maybe not very jazzy, right? You definitely hear it in a lot of different kinds of music. It's not terrible. I mean, there's certainly maybe some instances where you could use it, but it's not my favorite voicing. I will say we can do the same thing that we did in the last chord. So we can take the G, move it to an A, and that gives us this D minor 6, or inversion of a B half diminished, like I said with the last chord, and that's nice. Okay, the next one we have this. So this is, I mean, you could use it as a as an F, 6, 9, sharp 11, but just as a G7, not great. So we have F, D, G, and B. Now again, these chords, since there's a lot of separation between the two lowest notes, it really makes it sound like a figured bass. That's a classical term. Figured bass means that like you don't have the root of the chord in the bass. You have a different note in the bass, and that's like you would write it like G over F, because the F is very pronounced. The F sounds like the root of the chord. Again, though, we can take this G, move it to an A, and that gives us like another B half diminished inversion, but it sounds a little better. Okay, so now we're gonna do the series of not skipping any strings. So we'll just go 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd. So first we get this, which is, if you add a bar, that's like one of the first chords you learn. So we're just gonna take these 4 notes though. So I would just say cancel that altogether. It's just it's no good, and there's not really anything we can do with that. I would just take that out of your vocabulary. For jazz, it's good for other things. Or maybe if you're talking about like a more like kind of Ted Green, Joe Pass solo guitar-ish kind of thing, but still, no, just I don't like that. Okay. But yeah, just for the record, it's I guess I didn't say the notes. G, D, F, B. Okay, so let's invert that, and then we get this. So this one I kind of like. I don't really like it on this string set. It gets a little muddy, and it's also kind of hard to play. It's not great because just the nature of this inversion. Now, one thing we can do, again, take this G, move it to an A, and that gives us something jazzier, right? So this is like a B half diminished, not like root position, kind of. Okay, this next one actually sounds okay. It's not bad. So we have D, G, B, and F. That's actually not a bad chord. It's not the most colorful chord, but it's not terrible. Okay, let's move this up. So then we get this chord. So we get F, B, D, and G. This definitely sounds to me like a G7 or like a G over F. So maybe if you are using it in that context, it sounds okay, but I'm not crazy about this chord. Again, I think with this chord, if you add the A on instead of a G, that sounds better. Okay, let's move on to the 5th string. So let me see. Okay, we'll do it like we did the last few times. So we'll start with the root position. So we'll start on the 10th fret, right? So okay, then we first get this chord, which is like just really bad for me, at least. It's gonna be a no from me, dog. But we have G, D, F, and B. I mean, this is like the first G7 you learn on this string, especially if you're not playing jazz. I will say for this one, what you can do is actually just take out the 4th string, and which is the 5th, and then you have that. That's actually not bad. I'm fingering it a little differently now. For like a very, meat and potatoes basic chord, it's not the worst. Okay, now this had been the case for all the chords. Now when we move to this first inversion here, we're very high up on the neck, and we can actually just move it down. So, and I prefer to move it down. So we're lucky because we have an open string here, so you will have to finger it differently if you move it into some different keys. But okay, so we have B, F, G, and D. So I actually really like this chord. It's the same one that we had here, but I like it on this string combination better. It is a little twangy, but it is kind of cool. Another thing, since we're in this open position, we can add the open E. And I really like that, especially for something like a little frizzelly. Okay, also we can just take off the E, or actually keep it on, either way. And we can take the G and move it to an A. So that's a B half diminished, but it's also a G9, right? And that one's perfectly good to use on a G7. Okay, cool. So then we're gonna move forward to another inversion number 2, and we get this. So this is D, G, B, and F. Not crazy about this chord. It sounds a little better over here, especially if you're like, there's no bass player or something like that, but not crazy about it here. Again, we can take the G and move it to an A. That gives us that D minor 6, or, inversion of a B half diminished, which is definitely nicer. This just sounds, oh, actually that's nice. Just add the open E string. Get a little crunch there. But yeah, generally not really into this chord. Okay. Moving forward, now we have F, B, D, and G. Same chord as we had here. Still not any more crazy about it. It also definitely sounds to me like it's, the F is the root. So I would be careful with that one. So one modification, which is a different modification we can make here, is actually just take the D and change it to an E. And that gives us a really great chord, actually. That's a G13, and it's like perfect to use for comping. And we'll do that on the next string set too. But if you go, like a very bluesy sounding G7 is great. So, okay, we got something out of it, right? Okay. Now we're gonna move to the next string set. So we're gonna do 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. We'll start with the one with the root and the bass as we're done with the other chords. So we get that, which is just, again, it's the same one we had here. It's no good. I mean, it's good for like a Willie Nelson song or something, but it's not good for jazz. You can do the same thing and take the you could take the 3rd string out, which is the 5th. I would still not use that. It sounds a little better over here, but still not really good. A couple things we can do. Now we're high up enough that we can change the G to a D to an A, even if it's in the bass, and it'll sound okay. Or I guess I'm really changing the chord around a bunch. We can take the 3rd, move it to a 9th. So take the B, move it to an A. And then we can take the 5th and move it to a 3rd down here. And then we get this, which is the same thing as this. If you can't follow that, don't worry. It's not really that important. I know I'm going kind of quickly, so. All right, so then we're gonna move up here and we get this. Again, not great, not the best. But we can do the same thing, and we can take that G, move it to an A. And then that's pretty good. I mean, it's not the best, it's a little funky, but that's not bad. Another just kind of like extra credit, we could do this. So we could actually just like take the 7th here, the F, move it down to an E. Take the G here, move it down to an F. And that gives us this stretchy chord. So we're gonna keep the notes on the 4th string and the 1st string. A little bit of a like what Vic Juris chord or something. But yeah, don't worry about it too much if you didn't catch that. Okay, and then our last chord here, we get this. So we get D, G, B, F. Really bad. We don't want to use that. Again, but one easy modification we can make is we can take the G, move it to an A. And that gives us actually a decent chord, which is the same one we had here. All right, so those are our G7 inversions. This is, probably going to be the least useful video out of all the inversion videos, but I still think there's some good stuff in there. I'll try and see if I can write all the alternatives in the PDF. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, thanks guys for tuning into another Teaching Tuesday. You can find, like I just mentioned, PDFs in the Patreon, linked below. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I think we might do a couple more inversion series, and then who knows what we'll do after that. The sky's the limit. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. Share it with your friends. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next Tuesday.